Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, another episode where we look at things. Steve brings up a subject and we discuss it for a few minutes, dissect it. Can't promise to bring any answers along, but we can certainly give things to think about. So, over to Steve. What have you got for us now, Steve?
Hi, people, again. Today, I'm in a bit of a frivolous mood because today's a Friday and tomorrow I'm going to go to the farm and for a birthday, get my hair cut. Well, need it. And so I'm quite happy. And today's Friday, so let's have a bit of a giggle, a serious giggle, right? So let's look at this global village where we all live on this little rock we call home, and have a look at the neighbours. Over at this side here, we've got us here in Brazil. You know, we're a little house on the great housing estate. On the other side there you have Europe. And of course, who is starting to bring the whole housing estate down are the people over there called the US. Now, this is based on headlines coming out of the US. This little scenario is based on what's happening in the US. You don't have to need to understand the details of all the headlines, just the headlines that are coming out. So we know that in the House of the US, it's starting to get a little bit decadent. You know, they're letting the grass on the lawn grow, and they could do with doing the guttering. And we know that the people that live there, you walk past the front of the house and you can see there's a domestic happening inside. You can hear the shouting. You can hear the throwing of the cups and the plates, and you don't need to understand what they're saying. You just know that they're arguing. That you just know that they're screaming at each other. You know. And this is over the last 2 years. You find that the more you delve into it, you find that the last 2 years that the house is starting to show its wear. You know, it needs to be touched up. But unfortunately, the owners aren't really taking that much care of the house. And the children are no much better. The behavior of the children, Disney and Hollywood, they're running rampant, and they just, the parents, you can understand why the parents are arguing so much, because it's difficult to control the children that they have. The most recent child, Bud, he's a little tyke. He's impossible. And what's happening in the general scheme of the things on the housing estate is that there's a housing association meeting next week, and the US hasn't been invited. But India has, and Russia has, and all the other houses, they're joining together, and along with 40 others, the bricks, the house is made of bricks and mortar. Good one there.
Analogy. I like the analogy. Yeah.
Right. And there are 40 others, 40 other neighbours, relatively new neighbours, but they're going to see what's happening in the community. And the thing is that over the last 2 years, it's all right having a joke about all this.
Yeah.
Over the last, seen not one headline coming out of the US
Mm.
that's positive. The US, the owner of the US House,
Mm.
he's a belligerent bugger. He goes out and occasionally, I'm sure he must be drunk with the power, you know. He
Yeah.
goes out bullying the people of the other houses, you know. And so he's getting that he's starting to not get liked very much by the rest of the neighbours.
Mm.
And of course, that what happens there, it's a spiral going down and down and down, you know. And eventually, they'll they're going to be ostracized from the housing estate. Nobody's going to talk to them,
Mm.
you know. And the thing is, like I said, I haven't seen one headline coming out of the US that shines the US in a positive light. A long time ago in the 80s and the 70s, 80s
Yeah.
and 90s, there was a lot of stuff, you know, coming out of the US that was very positive,
Mm.
you know. But this last, I would say this last 2 years, absolutely nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. If you know it's something, let me know, because to me it just seems like a big depression. Over to you.
Right. Yes. Okay. I love the analogy of the housing estate, and yeah, the once the grand owners of the house, the best looking house there is now, yeah, somewhat, yeah, the paint's peeling and so the grass is growing. Yeah, just imagine, yeah, it's all you're beginning to see the neglect that's there, the inward looking, yeah, the domestics going on with the drunken people. The children are no better. They're on. We have to go careful what I say here. They're on some weird stuff. Uh, and so it's going to be one of them days. Yeah, I've had a couple of lessons like this morning, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And it is yeah, the offspring yeah, kicking off, a bit entitled. Oh, you got to listen to us. We know what we're doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It. I mean, okay, we're talking about it. I mean, I remember the 1980s US. It was an incredible place to see the produce coming out of there. When I say produce, yeah, the films and everything else. America's what we wanted to aspire to be. The US, we wanted that house. We might not like everything in the house, some of the
Right.
ornaments and everything, but we wanted to aspire to be that house, or copy it. Not anymore. And yes, the present House administration there, who's ever running it, yeah, seems to be living in some sort of weird delusional brain.
Not for me to point any fingers.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to point fingers, you know.
No.
All I can tell you is that from the outside, every time I pass the front of the house,
yeah,
they're arguing.
yeah, well, yeah,
And it's quite a fierce argument. Like I said, you know,
yeah,
throwing cups and throwing. You
yeah,
can hear it. You can hear it.
yeah. But now we to get ice cream, man. um, okay, we know what we're talking about here. It is a
If not from him, from Auntie Pelosi, her freezer's full of it.
oh, I just think, oh, no. Yeah, it's a. I mean, I've actually seen it. I mean, it could be the end of a decline of don't forget that the house was once attached to a much bigger house. That bigger house started to decline many years ago, became a much smaller house, downsized, and yeah, that house became bigger, and now it's going as well. It could be the end of a certain dynasty. Which one now?
I think if we have a look at the House of Argentina,
Mm.
you're probably looking at if you look at the House of the US
Mm.
and then look at the House of Argentina, you can see how the House of the US is going to end up, because I think it's going to end up the same as Argentina.
I mean, yeah, Argentina was once the most incredible. Well, basically it's South America, but it was European. It's very European-esque. place with the place to come to. Actually the unofficial British colony was there. Many of them are descended from British people.
Yeah, sure.
The last country we should have ever been having any squabbles with. Okay, for football games and other small wars. It is a I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, obviously the up and coming BRICS convention or conference is certainly going to be interesting. I mean, admittedly, we live in Brazil. We can see many advantages to Brazil being part of the BRICS community. Whatever our feelings about Russia and China are, as British people, obviously designated enemies now, if you're British. Yeah. I'm going to be quite honest about it in here. But yeah, because we are in in Brazil, we can see advantages of doing business and trade with these countries and being part of it. Yes, I have a few concerns about China, the way that they do things. You've got to admit they're absolutely spot on, brilliant business people on the face of it. Yeah, we know about the internal problems that China have, and in a way, China might be seeing a way out and having the BRICS as, if you like, part of the community that will help them. It could be a good mutual benefit to a lot of other countries. We can't look, and I'm going to talk now like I am a Brazilian with a head of the Brazilian. Yeah. We can't rely on Europe anymore for good business or good relationships. Brazil has been exploited in the past by European countries. South America, I'm going to talk specifically about
South America.
South America has been exploited.
Central and South America.
Yeah. The US has been very, very destructive down here in many ways. Whatever. Yeah.
The day before yesterday, the landlord here in Brazil received $500 million from the landlord of the US to help maintain the Amazon, the garden, right?
Yeah, the garden. Yeah.
And what I'd like to know is what the landlord here has to do to be able to buy the grow bags.
Yeah,
for the garden.
I was going to actually lead into that. Actually, you beat me on that one, but yeah, because I did a lesson about this this morning. Funny enough, given that the landlord of Brazil or has actually asked for help from other houses to maintain this garden, and the gardener's in it as well. Let's be honest about that.
He's asked to borrow the lawnmower.
Yeah, it is but then when you actually start reading some history and other things, which I did briefly this morning about things, certain other houses around the world haven't particularly looked after their own garden very well, and are now looking at the garden here and blaming the gardener here, or the owner of the garden here and the gardeners, for not maintaining their gardens and affecting the world. And yes, the garden across Europe has actually gone in decline, of disappearing in the past couple of decades, probably more rapidly than the garden we got here. I saw a report about it. Of course, all these agencies producing this are all asking for money to support their gardens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course,
yeah. And it is rather interesting. I mean, looking at it from an environmental point of view, they're all having these GOP meetings and things like that, where they all fly with their private jets. The owners of the houses all fly their private jets to these meetings to tell me to stop driving my car so much because it's affecting the environment. And yeah, when all we got to do is plant more trees. Okay, the economic sense about the Amazon, and let's get real about this. It is a money spinner for the owner of the house here, whoever that may be at the particular time, whomever. The point was made to me by someone this morning that neither the previous owners or the present owners really give a toss about the garden. Really.
Well, because it's a very big garden,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if the neighbours start to remove some of the flowers,
Yeah.
you're not going to see it. It's not going to be really obvious at the beginning. It's only when you've only got one flower in the garden left that you realise there's no more garden.
Well, this is the problem, and admittedly, yes, we're sleepwalking instinct, but it's not just a local problem. As the present owner of Brazil, present owner of the house here, has pointed out, that it is a global issue, but it's not just our local garden here that's got to be maintained, and you can't keep pointing fingers at our particular house. You have to start looking at what you're doing with your own houses before you start criticizing our house here. And
people in glass houses.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. And yeah, okay. We are not the house here is not responsible for 20% of the oxygen in the world, which keeps getting said. Yeah. The wonderful thing about gardens is they do absorb carbon monoxide and dioxide. And yeah, I realized what I said there. And all the houses need to actually have more trees around them. When a certain house or a tenant in one of the houses in a certain city called London was going to cut down a load of trees to put a cycle path in to save the environment, I have to start scratching my head. I really do. And the whole thing is just ridiculous. I love trees. I mean, I'm looking out of a window here in Brazil here, and I'm seeing trees around our little condominium. Yeah, and it's a lovely thing. I look out, I see trees. I see a massive antenna aerial structure behind them, but I see trees, and I'm quite happy for that. And they are maintained. Yeah, they're not a problem. We both know that in Brazil, it's very difficult to cut down a tree anywhere. In fact, particularly the local authorities have a devil's own job. And if you own a telecom company, don't think you can just take a chainsaw and lop off the top of a tree. You have to take pictures and prove why you're doing it. Invariably, we've got to do it. Yeah. It's very sad that one of my relatives had to cut down a tree because it was bringing down an electric cable. Yeah, it was affecting that, but the tree was diseased anyway. So, but immediately this person planted a new tree.
Yep.
They probably won't live to see it to its full growth, but they planted a tree back. And my particular family love trees as well. They've got country things and everything else. But yeah, I mean, this is it. And maybe we've all got to do our own bit here. I thought it was quite funny that in the area I come from in Southend, 2 years ago, the drive was to plant trees everywhere. The local authorities, council, were spending lots of money on publicity to telling people to plant trees or spending money. Next thing is they're cutting them down again. There's no, yeah. There doesn't appear to be any realistic planning and everything. Everybody's telling everybody else how to live, and nobody's actually doing it themselves. And I mean that, unfortunately, with environmentalists as well. I mean, yeah, it's okay telling us people in certain regions rely on forestry, be it wood as well, to survive and make their houses and everything. Yeah. Everybody's saying be environmentally friendly and everything else. Nobody's got a strategic plan of how you replace the economic situations of some people. And also, yeah, what is right for the area? The best people to maintain the Amazon are the local people here. I don't disagree with what the owner of our present house here did by calling this conference. Be it a little bit of rhetoric involved and shaking a fist at other houses. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, trying to find the positives here of what's going down. Yeah, I mean, okay, collectively, I'd rather the local homeowners in our region looked after the garden themselves, administered it themselves, rather than as a certain house owner from Europe, i.e. France, wanted to do a few years. Yeah.
Somebody on the other side of the estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, coming back to the original point, the nice house is the nice house on the estate. Unfortunately, is becoming is going to end up like one of the worst houses on the estate.
Yeah.
Do you know? I sometimes wonder why some if you go to Africa and you see some regimes that they even kill their adversaries
Yeah.
to remain in power. But they remain in power of what exactly? Because there are some countries that are absolutely in misery.
Yeah.
And I asked myself the same thing about what used to be the nice house on the estate. You know, they're arguing so much, and they're going to argue so much and so much and so much. And while they're doing that, the house around them is falling down.
Yeah.
And when they finish having their argument and try and kiss and make up, they're going to realize that, you know, they've kissed and made up for what exactly? Because
it's gone. It's gone.
The house is in such disarray, and the kids have gone so ridiculously.
I was reading a report that maybe some people there may have to think about splitting up and having a two separate, a blue house and a red house.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Quite how you'll do that, I don't know.
Ask any good divorce lawyer.
Well, hang on. We've got this problem with our own house in an estate that our own country's tried to leave the estate, and that's not going too well.
They put a fence up.
Yeah.
Our house, they put a fence around our house.
Yeah.
In the UK.
Yeah, but we're still yeah. We've tried.
But the buggers have made a hole and they're still coming in.
Yeah, well, yeah, made a hole. But also the rest of the estate of our particular house still want to be kept paying the condominium costs. Yeah, you couldn't make it up. Yeah. If you enjoyed this discussion, can you please like, subscribe, and share it? Thank you.